Hello everyone. So I've actually gotten a few requests for me to embarrass myself with my own matches on Global, and I figured that's probably not too much trouble, so I'll pick out some matches that maybe I find interesting or I just like, and just let all of you have a look. We all know you're probably just here because it's playoffs times and you're probably spying on my box or something, but I gotta be honest, there's really not a lot for you to see here. So this is actually my first game in Season 6, this is my first placement match, and you're going to see very soon that I just kind of forgot how to play the game. So this pick man is pretty standard. Clearly my opponent has confidence in his Zerda though, because he second picks Zerda into my Landius first pick. Then comes the old Landius, which of course is very annoying. So to face off against his Zerda, obviously I try to pick some tanky units, try not to worry too much about the Zerda. I end up letting him have a 3-man mythical team, and that's mostly because I really didn't want to deal with the RNG characters like Reen or the two Bozols. This pick ban is pretty standard too. He bans my most obvious meta threats pretty quickly. He gets rid of my Ares, my Reen, so he leaves me with my unpopular meme characters like Chris and Layden. So being that this is my first game of the season, I decided to go with Redeemers on both my Layden and my Chris, and that will end up being a huge mistake on my part. I probably would have been much better off if I had picked different soldiers on them, but I guess I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. So you'll see in a second here that my final pick is going to be Tiaras, which is very annoying to face off against if you have to fight multiple tanks. But of course he has Zerda, who can take out my Tiaras easily, so that's really my biggest concern here. I'm hoping that the rest of his characters can't break through my tanks, and that's really much my strategy here. Hopefully find a spot where I can kill Zerda somehow, which is not going to be possible unless I bait her out in some way. So big ban is over, so let's jump into the fight. So the first turn here is just set up on both sides. Both of us are playing pretty slow characters, aside from maybe a Zerda. But for the most part, this is a pretty traditional tank push fight. So ideally, my goal here is to try to approach his team and have Landius and Layden sort of wall off my squishier units, and try to approach him in a way so that I can kill his Zerda. Alright, so unfortunately right here, it's the beginning of the end. He's got that Tenyo Breeze on Zerda, so I really have nowhere that I can hide anymore. I can only try to sort of back up a little bit like I'm doing with Tiaras here. Unfortunately, he is about to follow up with his ult Landius right here, and you can see he got a double Vidar's Rose proc on both Liana and Landius, which isn't that bad, but the real pain here is that he got a clock here. Landius' pushing ability is just really OP. Many of you who probably watch lots of Apex fights already know just how strong he can be. He just opens up so many interesting ways of playing just by himself. So right here I started attacking his Landius, hoping that by breaking his Landius away from his team, maybe I can try to take him out. After that, if this fight becomes 2 tanks versus no tank, then it's in my favor. But right here we got the again on old Landius. Not much I can do anymore except for heal and just hope for the best. So thanks to that clock on old Landius, he is able to push both Layden and Chris down. This is a really good play from him. If I'm not mistaken, before this he was unable to reach my Tiaras, but by pushing Layden and Chris out of the way, his Zerda now just zooms in and gets rid of Tiaras. And that is indeed a Twilight Star Zerda. So he wisely chooses to attack my Tiaras over my Liana, who is Holy, and he probably surmised that me running Holy means I probably fixed immune. In that sense, it was probably good that I ran Redeemers on Chris, because right there he probably could have stabbed Chris and killed her easily, but of course the Redeemers could revive her. So first thing I do here, you can see, is that I took Landius' first life. Young Jessica really shows her flexibility here by shooting off a mass heal from like 6 spaces away. Pretty much ruins any chance of me killing Landius here, and he does more off healing with old Landius, because he has a gift of eternal life. Would be really nice if I could have more of those too. Can I have one, please? But anyway, Landius actually manages to take out Zerda here. Probably because she's running Hellfire Archers. Templar Knights get bonus stats against them, so they probably blew up the Hellfire Archers pretty easily, and then Zerda took the rest of the damage pretty hard. So with the Zerda gone, this fight becomes kind of a slap fight. We kind of just poke each other's tanks for a really long time. This fight definitely favors him though, because old Landius is really good at these type of fights, thanks to his ability to push people around. Even with that though, I was sort of biding my time until maybe I could cast Layden's 3 cost again. Unfortunately, I make a very fatal mistake later on that cost me the match. So one thing some of you might have noticed immediately is that Layden has his revive symbol toggling on and off over and over during the match, despite the fact that my opponent really doesn't have any debuffs to speak of. And that's because the move again disabling aura from Landius's Peace of Mind skill actually affects the Redeemers. So anytime I'm standing Layden next to an enemy Landius, he actually has his revive disable and there's really nothing he can do aside from just walk away. And obviously that's not something you really want to do with Layden, because Layden's whole thing is that he's supposed to be able to pull an enemy tank over and lock them down, or maybe pull a squishy over and kill them. Another thing I feel the need to point out is that Redeemers right now are actually complete garbage because their damage reduction talent or skill is actually just straight up not working. I went out and tested this a couple times on both Layden and Chris, and the 20% damage reduction just does not exist right now. I mean, there's really no other way of putting it. So all they do is really sit there and have some pretty decent HP defense and magic defense stats. And like in 70% of the matches you're fighting, they really don't have a revive to speak of. So really right now their main function is to just prevent a one-shot from some kind of rush strategy. And even then they're not necessarily that good at doing it, because obviously any debuffs will just disable them immediately. So I asked a couple of our CMs about it, and they told me that this is going to be fixed in the next major update, but who knows if that's actually going to happen. This is a glitch that happened on the Chinese server as well, and it was fixed back in November actually, which is right before the Wataru collab came out. Anyway, you can see the fatal mistake I make here. I end Layden's turn. I kind of figured he should be able to take a hit, but he can't, so the fight's over. Like I said, I was standing in aura, so I didn't get to revive. I also forgot to stand Layden inside Landius's ranged defense aura, so it just shows you how much I lost attention at the end of that match. But you know, whatever, it happens. On to the next match.